Hey there, welcome back to our CSS series. Today, we'll talk about two important things, z-index and overflow property. Let's jump right in. In our HTML, we've got a heading, a div with the class greenbox, and a paragraph. Now, in the CSS file, let's style that greenbox div. All we need to do is set its width to 200 pixels, height to 150 pixels, background color to green-yellow, and font size to 30 pixels. Easy peasy. The z-index property only works when you set the position property of an element. So, to position the box at the top left corner, we'll use position, absolute, and set top to 0 and left to 0. But be cautious because this might cover the heading and paragraph with the box. To place the box behind the text, use a -1 value for the z-index. This will send the box backward in the stacking order, making it appear behind other elements. Now, let's create one more box with a different color. Just copy the CSS code for the second box. The class name for this box will be Tomato Box. Change the background color to tomato, and adjust the top and left values to 60 pixels and 100 pixels, respectively. This will help us see the effect of z-index more clearly. In the HTML file, simply create a div element with the class name TomatoBox to represent our second box. Go back to the CSS file. Now, if you change the value of z-index to 1 for the green box and the z-index value to 2 for the tomato box, you'll see that the green box is behind the tomato box. This is because the green box has a value of 1, and the tomato box has a value of 2. Now, let's try something else. Change the value to 4 for the first box and 3 for the second box. You'll notice that the tomato box is now behind the first green box. In other words, the element with a greater z-index value is always displayed above an element with a lower value. Now, what if we remove the z-index from both boxes? If two position elements overlap each other without a z-index specified, the element defined later in the HTML code will be shown on top. It takes priority in the stacking order. Just remember this, elements with higher z-index values are displayed above those with lower values. Now, let's talk about the overflow property. It's used to manage what happens when content is too big for a given area. This is the CSS code, and in the HTML, there's a div element with some text. By default, the text will appear outside the box, but nothing will be hidden. When I set overflow to visible, the text continues to show outside the box, and removing the property gives the same result. Now, if I change overflow to hidden, any overflowing text will be cut off and hidden. You won't see the overflow text inside the box. Next, when I set overflow to scroll, the overflowing text is clipped and a scroll bar is added so you can scroll to view the hidden content inside the box. Keep in mind that this adds both horizontal and vertical scroll bars, even if they are not needed immediately. Let's try setting the value to auto. It's similar to scroll, but it adds scroll bars only when the text doesn't fit inside the box. Now, we have overflow X and overflow Y properties. These let us control the overflow of content horizontally or vertically, or both. If we set overflow X to hidden and overflow Y to scroll, it will hide the horizontal scroll bar and add a vertical scroll bar. Overflow X determines what happens with the left and right edges of the content, and overflow Y decides what happens with the top and bottom edges of the content. And don't forget, the overflow property works only for block elements that have a specified height. If you found this video helpful, I kindly request your support by liking the video, subscribing to my channel, activating the notification bell for future video updates, and leaving random comments.